So this workshop went for half a day and it was very interesting. Some of the things I already knew about sensory differences and things. So it's really talking about what is neurodiversity, that we're not broken, just different. And one of the things that I took home, there was two big things that really helped me out on that day. You know, you always take something away from a workshop. One of them was a definition of empathy, which I'll probably do in a different video. But the thing that I've been thinking about mostly is anxiety. I didn't realise until this week that anxiety and fear are not the same thing, which I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, it's funny how you don't, well, I shouldn't say you. It's funny how I am not the kind of person who tends to think about things that feel settled until there comes a point where you have to explain it, and then you think, oh, actually, I'm not sure. So then I generally look it up. And anxiety was one of those things. I've never in my life thought of myself as being anxious until more recently, and getting a diagnosis of general anxiety disorder it almost flew under the radar for me. I didn't even know I had it because I was so focused on the autism part of the assessment. But when I did read through the report, probably not the first time, but eventually when I read through it and picked up on this GAD and realised it's general anxiety disorder, then I thought, well, okay, it must be just part of the autism then, I'm not sure. Going to this course and having the definition, anxiety and fear, put up did give me a bit of an aha moment. It's a thought process, and the threat there may be a threat, it may be real or imagined. If it's real, it may be as big as your mind is making it, or it may not be. It may not even exist in the general sense of the word. So anxiety is a thought process, I guess, with or without a real world link or a reality link. So it could be imaginary, which doesn't mean it's any less real for the person or damaging for the person. The reason I have been so off the radar with anxiety is because I had a conception that anxiety is all about shaking, sweaty hands, you know, shrinking as a person and avoiding things, and, you know, being locked in a cupboard at the moment. There's a thought of danger, running away, that kind of thing. And I haven't, that isn't me. It's never been me. I don't run to danger. I'm not a thrill seeker or an adrenaline junkie by any means. But generally, what's happened in my life is when things have got bad and stressful and dangerous, I have generally found it pretty easy to cope and manage, and I have dealt with those things very, very well. And if anything, I come into complete focus, so much so that when I was younger I nearly joined the armed forces because I felt that was one thing that I was good at, you know, going into danger and actually being clear and calm and cool and collected. And I guess it is a skill. However, the other side of me, when nothing's going on at all, or when life is just, you know, meandering along, I'm a ball of anxiety, which is weird, but it's my reality. So that's what I wanted to delve into here in this video, and explain to you some of the processes that have been going on since I realised that anxiety and fear are not the same. So now I know what anxiety is. I can look for it in my day-to-day and in my body. Now, looking for these things in my body is hard for me. I really struggle, or have, I should say, I have really struggled to recognise and map the feelings inside of me to the origin, you know, the cognitive processes that are happening. Especially for things like this, and I mean, it's no wonder really, is it, if I didn't know what anxiety was? Of course I couldn't map that, you know, my stomach's feeling in knots or my heart rate's just gone crazy. Getting one of these things, this is a Garmin, which I don't know even, oh, it is working today. My Garmin, that does give me alerts. Sometimes my Garmin will alert me that my heart is palpitating before I even realise, which is kind of odd, but that it feels less odd now than it did this morning, because now I have watched a couple of videos on what science is, the scientific research that's going on between autism and body awareness, interoception. So it may be that I'm actually quite normal for somebody who's autistic, or someone with a low level of interoception. Now that I know what it is, I've started to see it come up through my body, and that's amazing for me. It doesn't feel great, and it's not that now I know about it I've been able to stop it so far, but this is early days. We're talking the first couple of days, and this is the first day I've been able to sit here and map it out. Now I'm using one of my own made tools to help me. I'll show you what that is without, actually let me move my tea, because I'll probably end up putting my head in that. So I'm just going to move the camera and you can see my little mind map. So this is my table, this is my mind map. You can't really read it, it's not really for reading in this video, but it's for me. So while I was going through my autism assessment, part of that is looking at trauma to see if that's the cause for this presentation of a human. So we look at trauma, we look at personality disorders, that again could come from trauma, could come from something else, personality type in general, history, and also obviously the neurodiversity. So basically by the time you get diagnosed with autism, if you go through that adult assessment process, you may or may not have other diagnoses at the same time. For me, I did get a couple more, complex PTSD and this generalized anxiety disorder. Other people might get a few different things put in the mix. Some things like personality disorders are temporary or can be temporary. You can learn skills and have interventions and possibly medications to recover from a personality disorder, whereas there's other things that are permanent. It's a wiring issue, and neurodiverse outcomes are wiring. So I'm not going to get better from being autistic. I can get better at being autistic, but it's not something that's wrong with me or I need to recover from. The complex PTSD is probably something that I can relieve the pressure on, as is the general anxiety disorder. However, being autistic makes it harder for me. One of the reasons it makes it harder for me is because I don't read my body well, and I have a poor understanding of what these things are. How the heck I can get to this age without having known what anxiety and fear are in terms of each other and how they relate is kind of beyond me. It feels weird, but it's true. That's just the way it is. So anyway, having learned that, I looked at my mind map, which I did a while ago. My mind map is my thoughts and my feelings and where I think they've come from in terms of the environment, my family, my neurodiversity, trauma, etc. So it's kind of giving me a bit of a map. The map doesn't tell me an outcome. It basically just shows me some options of where I can go. It gives me some waypoints or some locations, if you like. So it's almost a tool. So I've created myself a tool, and I can look at things like anxiety and see where it leads me. So that's what I've been doing today. So today has been a good day for me in terms of mapping anxiety, because I've been very anxious. Very strange, because today is a Sunday. It's the first day I've had off work for a little bit. I've been working quite hard trying to get things finished, and it's been the first time in about 2 years that I've actually been able to work to this level. But today I had a day where I had a plan of things to do, and so far I haven't done any of them. So I'm a little anxious about that, to say the least. But anyway, today, in a day where nobody's asking anything of me, there's no one here but myself and the dog, I don't need to do anything. Nobody's left me a list of to-dos. I mean, the only thing I had to do is go and get tea bags, and that wasn't that hard. But I'm still feeling quite anxious a lot. Why? Because of this map. So let me explain some of it for you in the context of what I've started to understand about myself. One of the things that comes up to me as a trigger that sort of plays into me being anxious is my inner calculator. And my inner calculator has a number of origins. So calculating could be noticing the time and calculating how long I've got left of the day, or how long something's taking me, or how many things that I've got to fit in, and working out how each task is going to play out in terms of, when am I going to fit it in, at what time, how long is it going to take. So I have a very keen focus on calculations in terms of time, in terms of value, cost, whatever. Lots of things are calculated in my mind, almost like background noise. So I have a background calculator noise. On a day like today, where I have got a plan, abandoned my plan, then kind of thought, well, maybe I still can do it. But, it's kind of, I haven't actually got my day sorted. And now I'm running out of day. The day's going. On a day like this, my calculator keeps coming in and telling me, look at the time now. What have you done? You're not going to get this finished. You're not going to do that. That gives me anxiety, because the process is going on. So the process of becoming aware of passing time, using up materials when I'm doing something, whatever, that all causes me anxiety. The calculator input triggers some trauma for me around value judgments about being, doing something in the day, achieving, it's a kind of narrative of, got to get up and get on with something and achieve something. So this calculator bias that I have taps into and is fed by this whole idea of getting something done. What am I going to show for the day? What did I achieve today? What did I do today? Unfortunately, that element of doing is complex for somebody who's neurodiverse like me. I have autism, which is very strong on the monotropic, so I can get stuck on a task, and that task can just kind of like train track my whole day, week, whatever. Then I also have ADHD, which can mean I can be on the train track here, and then, I've got a train track, I'm on a train track here. So the ADHD, when that's having a field day, and it's me, it's not the thing, it's me, I can flick, and that has happened a bit today. So I've had several things that I wanted to get finished that, take a bit of time, and I've tried to flick between the jobs. And what generally happens, because of this autistic monotropism and the ADHD flicking between things, I leave chaos everywhere. So I get lots of things out, maybe I drop things, I end up with mess everywhere, and inevitably you get towards the end of the day and not only has nothing been finished, but I've actually caused a lot of mess. And that can then tap into another cause of anxiety, which is my rules and duty. So the duty and the rules, like that I'm an adult, I shouldn't operate like this. There's a judgment of myself, I should just be able to do this. Why can't I get my shit together? That kind of thing. And rules, like you shouldn't, you need to get the washing up done by a certain time. You can't leave last night's dishes all day. The bed's not even made, and that's a bad thing. The washing's still in the washing machine, or you've got it out, but now it's cold. This comes in. So my calculator brain is going constantly all the time, and that's giving me anxiety. But then every now and then I get these other people to the chorus, which are talking about, well, what did you get done today? The judgments of, is that enough? Is that whatever? And all of this is going on in the context of me not really having a clue how to set a schedule for myself half the time, and also with a personality type that doesn't like to be managed. My neurodiversity makes executive functioning very difficult for me. I find it very hard to plan and to complete a task and to map it out. So actually calculating all the steps, I can think of what needs to be done. I'm not, that's fairly easy, but actually doing it and doing it to time and fitting it in with other things is really hard for me. So I can monotask heavily, but then I get stuck and it kind of derails me. So the idea of having a manager manage me makes me feel sick in my stomach, to be honest, and brings me anxiety. Not because I don't have discipline, I value that, I am disciplined, and I have a sense of duty and all the rest of it, but it's because of my neurodiversity makes that really hard for me. So it's almost like saying every single day the thing that you really suck at and have a brain wiring that is really makes this hard for you, you have to do to be a valued human. And unfortunately, that management task, the management skills, of having a good plan, sticking to a plan, ticking off things off a to-do list of a job, getting a task done, being task orientated instead of monotropic or chaotic, that is really hard for me. So that all fits in. And then, like I said, I've got this calculator that goes round and round and round. In terms of how that makes me feel, I mean, all of this is coming from inside of me. There's no one actually judging me, but I feel judged. I feel judged, I feel heavy, I feel attacked, confused, trapped at times, and sometimes even invisible, because the invisibility one isn't coming out today because this isn't happening to me in public. This is happening to me at home. So I feel visible at home. But I'm feeling confused because I don't know what's appropriate. Time and time again, when I've set out to do tasks, I've had, I have days where I can achieve so much, and then people who witness what I've done will be like, oh my God, that's huge. And then I've other days when it's really, really hard to do much, but even my little bit is a lot compared to some people. I'm very productive, quite creative, those things are big. So I really struggle to know what is normal for me and what's comfortable for me. And I also struggle to change or to assess that on a day-to-day basis. So some days, some days when you wake up and you're not got the right vibe, it's not feeling like a good day. I don't know how to handle that. It's almost like I need to be a robot and have the same thing happen every day, but some days you just can't. And usually for me, those down days or the up days are not emotional. The emotions are fairly flat. They're usually exhaustion because I've pushed the limits in other days. So the judgment also comes, for me, the feeling of being judged also very heavily comes from my neurodiversity and from me personally, because I feel like I always let myself down, or often, let myself down, because I do not know what is appropriate, and I find it hard to keep myself accountable anyway because of my executive processing skills, but also because I just don't know, I just don't know how to map that out. So this is this is what happens. Finally, those are my intellectual feelings of what's going on in my brain. What's going on in my body is something that's very new for me to be able to even map. For the anxiety, I have felt it for other things before, but in terms of what happens to my body on a day like this, I tense up. So I tend to find myself clenching my jaw, and I was doing this a lot yesterday, but yesterday I was teaching. But today I've also found that I will notice myself and I'm clenched. I used to clench my hands a lot when I was driving and make fists. Now I consciously don't. I try to relax them, but it has to be a conscious thing. I fall into these patterns. I clench my muscles in my jaw, I clench my thighs, like I tend to be like almost brace myself, like I'm bracing for the day. That also slows down my bowels and my gut, so it can feel literally constipated, whether you are or not. It feels like that. It's like, oh, can't quite get this out, and this could be anything from the finishing up of a digestive process to an idea or whatever, and that's basically what happens. So in a nutshell, a quiet Sunday doing stuff that I like. I've done several things today that I could actually look back and go, that's nice. It doesn't feel nice and flowy today. It feels deeply anxiety provoking, mainly because what I should have done I haven't done, and the reason I didn't do the job I should have done so far is because I didn't feel I've learned one thing about myself, is that some days when I'm not feeling it, I shouldn't do these complex tasks because I don't have enough resources left. I'm already tired, so I'm likely to break things, drop things, make a hash of it, and then feel even worse about myself. So instead today I've completed a series of little tasks, like repotting some of my indigos that had escaped. I've processed my mushrooms. So I collected all these mushrooms and they needed filtering and separating, which I've done. I did the same. I took the pigment out of a potato. I mean, this is kind of, very, very crazy chemistry hobbies that I've got. But you could know, and I've read some papers, I've listened to some YouTube, I've done a lot. I've listened to a podcast, I've done a bit of washing up. But, it doesn't matter what the reality is. I've realised that anxiety is not about what's actually going on or what the actual risks and whatever are. It's about what's going on in my mind. So I'm learning to do that. I'm learning to look at that and map it out. And it's interesting, but it's all a bit weird. Look, I hope that's been interesting. It's been a long video. I don't want to go on any further, but there's more and more to it, obviously. But that, for a first look at me being able to map my anxiety, I think there's definitely something here. I can feel it in my bones, and I think that's the other reason I haven't done this other work sort of task, because this is almost more important. Because if I can get to the bottom, if I can investigate my anxiety and join the dots a bit better, then I can ultimately be more productive going forward. And not only that, because it's not just about being productive in a work sense, it's about being productive as a human being, being more creative, being more, in balance. So ultimately that's what I mean by that. But anyway, I did take the time out to stop and share this with you because I could just tell this was the right moment. So hopefully that's been useful, as useful for you as it is for me. If not, c'est la vie. See you later. Bye bye.